Okay, thank you for your patience. Sorry for the waiting. The image is not as clear, but the demos I will be showing you are some prototypes I've built, and they're not, let's say, small screen proof, so I still have some work to improve. But first of all, I'm just going to show you quickly that we have a lot of demos and samples available, but as Stefan already mentioned, most of them are aimed at the aviation and the military domain because that's our core domain, or has been for many years, but we are now looking into different domains because we are coming from this military background. That gives you a lot of technical benefits because in the military and aviation we need to be able to deal with millions of points, position updates every second, connecting to any kind of data format, because the military usually they don't want to tell us what kind of data they have, so they have some data, and we have to offer them a way to connect to that data in a very simple way without us having to know what kind of data that is. Also, accuracy and performance, these are also very important for these domains. So I'm going to show you some examples. An example here is it's flight data. Doesn't matter if it's flight data or any other kind of data, but all that it matters is that 500,000 of points or position updates. And you can see I can just show them with no problem here in my browser because it's using the power of my graphics card through WebGL. But also I can quickly change the way they are visualized because they're all already loaded on the shader of the graphics card. We can just push some other expressions and say, okay, for now, for these values, we want to use these colors or these icons or whatever you want. And you can quickly change that. And this gives you a lot of benefit, whereas normally you would have to wait for a few minutes or something to render an image. Then you can wait for another few minutes and render another image, and then you can start comparing those. But if you want to find something in the data, if you want to find unknown unknowns, you don't know what you're looking for. So what you want to do is you want to play with your data, and in this way you want to find what you don't know you're looking for, and you want to find something that looks strange and dig deeper and investigate. For example, I don't know anything of flights, for example, but let's say why are there so many yellow and red planes in this location? This can be something important, and we can take a better look at it. So I have also another example here. This is, and it's not as good, there should be a world in the background. It's the dark theme. Okay, this is better. This is some earthquakes data, not really related to viruses again, but it shows you some of the capabilities. So in the bottom, we have again the timeline, and this time I've also added a different timeline. So that, for example, I have added an extra control, and you can choose which of the part of the time you want to visualize, and you see automatically, instantly, the map updates. So below we have the timeline showing the earthquakes, the depth and the magnitude, and on the map you see a density plot of the earthquakes, and you see these updates instantly. So this means that you can start playing with the data, you can start finding your unknown unknowns, and start solving your problems. Another thing we can do here is, for example, I have this aggregate mode. If I click it, we will now have a timeline of 1 year, and this means that if we zoom in, for example, on January, February, we will have all the earthquakes that ever happened, well, at least for the data that I have for 11 years, in those 3 months. And this is also possible because we have the model view controller design pattern, which means that our model and our view, or the visualization of our data, are separated, which means that we can reuse this model and visualize our data in a different way, and we can do that very quickly. In this case, I could easily set. Sorry?
Can you show multiple timelines?
Yes, of course. These timelines are actually also views of our product, but then in a non-geo-referenced way. As Stefan already mentioned, here we have a view with all your data in non-lat coordinates. And here we have actually two views, the top one and the bottom one. These are just also views, but there you can, for example, the x-axis is the time, and the y-axis can be anything you want, or the x-axis can also be anything you want. And then you can say, okay, for every earthquake I have, I will provide a point in these coordinates and visualize it in this way. And then you can benefit from all the other advantages you have. You can reuse your styling. You can do quickly filtering. For example, if I zoom in on the map, you see the timeline will also change based on the, yes, this mouse is very sensitive, based on the current bounds of what I'm looking at. And the other way around, you see if I zoom in on time, it will also filter on the map. And this is possible because we are reusing the data. We can use those filtering, which can be very fast because everything is geospatially indexed, etc. And you can reuse your model and visualize it in a different way. Let me give you another example. We can also, for example, aggregate on days. So now we have the whole timeline is 1 day, and we have visualized all the earthquakes on this 1 day. So if we zoom in here, we're now seeing all the earthquakes that happened around noon. For earthquakes, whether this is important, I don't know, I'm not an earthquake expert. I think Mother Nature doesn't really care whether it's noon or not to shake. But for when humans are doing stuff, and that can be very important to find some patterns. I've also added some functionality. For example, let's say we only want to take a look at the weekend, we want to take a look at October in all the years, or we want to take a look at October, the weekends in just a few years. And you see instantly this will all update. Of course, there's not a lot of data left because earthquakes are not, there are not so many earthquakes, but the same principle would still hold if you have a lot of data. Okay, I think that was what I wanted to show you guys. So if there are any more questions.
Did you see any augmentation in frequency in certain areas?
I haven't really played with the data that much yet because I was preparing to have something working for this evening. But to give you an example, I've created this demo in a matter of days, and most of it was trying to build a good UI. I'm not an expert on UI building, but if you want, you can take a look at the data and try to find some patterns. Yes, please.
Yeah, very naive question. Will you provide access to your software for free during the hackathon? Or?
Yes. So we're going to do it. We're going to organize a small workshop to get you started a little bit with the basics. We have, this is the JavaScript libraries I'm using here. We also have the Java libraries, which of course can be a bit more powerful because web development has its limits. There's a memory limit in the browser.
And you're going to provide the free publishing?
Sorry?
You're going to publish the results?
The results of...
How do you mean with publishing the results?
Well, whatever the hackathon produces in terms of visualization will be produced on the website.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
There is no limitations from our side. So.
Okay.
Okay.
I think